Alright, Assalamualaikum. I'm YANTI YAACOB. Okay, in this video, I will briefly explain about glycolysis. Um, so, in the previous lecture, I already explained about the principle in glycolysis. So, in this video, we need to know the pathway in the glycolysis, how many ATP being utilized and how many ATP is being produced. Okay, and what is the yield? How many yields of ATP being reserved? Okay, glycolysis. Glyco refer to the glucose and lysis refer to the breakdown. So basically, it's a breakdown of glucose into two molecules of pyruvates, and there are two phases in the glycolysis, which involve investment phase and also involve payoff phase. So investment is where the ATP is being utilized, ATP is being used, and in the payoff phase, the phase where the ATP is being produced back. Okay, so now we go to the investment phase. Okay, investment phase is started when the glucose entering the cytosols, okay, or cytoplasm. So this glucose is too big. This is a very complex molecule in order to enter the mitochondria and to produce the ATP. So what's happened? It must be break down into pyruvate. So in order to break down into pyruvate, they must undergo two phases, which is investment phase and also payoff phase. So now we look at the investment phase. Glucose 6 carbon compound. Okay, this glucose is 6 carbon compound. It's being converted into glucose 6 phosphate. Okay, enzyme involved in this reaction is hexokinase. Hexo refer to the 6 carbon compounds of glucose. Kinase refer to the phosphorylation process. Phosphorylation is the process where the phosphate is being transferred. So in this reaction, one phosphate from the ATP, okay, from the adenosine triphosphate, is being transferred to the glucose at the carbon number 6, and it become, the glucose now become glucose 6 phosphates. Okay, glucose 6 phosphates, because phosphate groups from the ATP is being transferred to the glucose at the carbon number 6. So what happened to the ATP now? This ATP now becoming ADP, adenosine diphosphate, because it's loss of one phosphate group. So in this reaction, we say that one ATP is being utilized. Okay, and the next steps is glucose 6 phosphate is converted into fructose 6 phosphates, which is both are isomer, and it involve the catalyzing enzyme, which is phosphoglucoisomerase. Okay, bila you tengok ada nama isomerase, meaning that this enzyme involved in isomer reactions. So this steps is a simple rearrangements. Okay, and from fructose 6 phosphate, now it being converted into fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Okay, biphosphate. So what happened in these steps? Okay, enzyme phosphofructokinase involved for catalyzing these reactions. Okay, again, when you see kinase, meaning that phosphorylation process happen here, meaning the phosphate group from ADP is being transferred to the fructose at the carbon number 1. So that's why the product is fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Okay, so what happened to the ATP? Now it's become ADP. So here another ATP is being utilized. So how many ATP being utilized now? 2 ATP. So the next steps is from fructose 1,6 biphosphate. It is splitting into two molecules, which is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and also dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate is an isomer. Okay, enzyme involved in this reaction from fructose 1,6-phosphate biphosphate into 2 molecule of glyceride 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate is aldolase. And glyceride 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate can be interconverted, so with the help of enzyme or isomerase. So in investment phase, okay, it only involve use 2 ATP. Okay, so 2 ATP has been utilized in investment phase. First, at the first steps, glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, 1 ATP has been utilized, and the second ATP being utilized at the third step from fructose 6-phosphate into fructose 1,6-biphosphate. So total amount of ATP being used only 2 ATP. So that's all for investment phase.